Hi, I'm Luke Kubicek with OHS Magnet, and I did video interviews with Mr. Mark Randall, Mr. Mark Sebring, the school board president, and Mr. Elstad, our superintendent. And these interviews contain lots of stuff on what's going on with this school and possibly a new school and the future of our school. I'm Luke Kubicek with OHS Magnet, and I'm here to talk about the facilities and the updates with our superintendent, Mr. Jeff Elstad.
Hey.
Thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure, Luke. Thanks for having me.
So to start off, do you want to just talk about your involvement with the project and everything that's going on?
Sure. So this project actually started about 4 years ago. At that time, it was 2014, and the task force had been assembled as community members to kind of look at all of the facilities. And as that project marched forward, the task force at that time in 2015 made a recommendation that it would be the next best step for the community if they took care of the elementary buildings and then added on to the middle school, and really then left the high school kind of untouched. So fast forward to this past August of 2018, the task force came back together with a few new members, including some students, high school students and a couple of middle school students, to talk about this last step in that process, which is what to do about our current high school situation, knowing that it's aging and needs a redo. So my role as a superintendent is basically the school board asks me to form a task force and have these discussions and really pull this to a recommendation. And so they've moved into the recommendation, and we're at a spot right now where, in fact, recently the board adopted the recommendation to build a new high school.
Mm-hmm. So then do you want to talk about what you're going to do now? Because I understand it is your duties to prepare the ballot language.
Yeah, so the role of a superintendent now, really, I serve at the pleasure of the school board because those are kind of my 7 bosses, if you will.
Yeah.
And what they've asked me to do is to start the process to put a special election or a bond ballot on a special election on May 14th of this coming spring, so 2019. And to prepare for that, there's a couple of pieces that have to be done in the interim. One of them is we have to prepare what's called a review and comment. And that's probably 100 to 150 page document that we send off to the Minnesota Department of Education so they can review, does this project match the scope of your needs? What's the price tag? What does your community need? So there's lots of pieces within it. So that's what we'll be spending our time on right now. In addition to coming up in late January, we'll be preparing what we call a resolution for a bond election language, which means you actually have to prepare the question that you'll be asking on the ballot, and how much money you'll be asking the community to consider bonding for. So that's kind of my work between now and January, and then from January to May is really educating everyone in our community about what this means for them.
Okay. All right. So one other question is, do you see Owatonna as different after being away from it for a little bit?
You know, I was away from the work. One of the things that has been really special for me is that my family has grown up in Owatonna. In fact, my daughter Kirsten was a 2014 graduate of OHS. My son Derek was a 2016 graduate of OHS. So there's lots of ties for me.
Yeah.
So I've been a community member. It's been healthy, though, to be in other school districts and learn a little more about how other school districts operate. And then coming back to Owatonna, the one thing I would say about Owatonna is that I have a lot of community pride.
Yeah.
And so being part of a school system and part of this community means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And it's good for me to be home.
Yeah. That's good. And then what's a realistic timeline for the end goal and that?
So, we always move forward in hopes that we'll have a successful bond referendum. If we were to successfully pass that bond issue on May 14th, it would lead us to a potential opening the fall of 2022. It takes almost 3 years between design and construction and all of those pieces to really prepare a school that's ready for students and staff. So our hope would be is that a new Owatonna High School would open up would be the class of 23, but the fall of 2022.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Talking over some things.
All right. Go Huskies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The bond amount will be coming out on Monday, and this is the amount that voters will be voting on whether they want to approve the new school or not.